This story follows a young girl dating a secret prince who eventually reveals his true identity. Given that she's from a different background, his mother, a queen, does everything she can to separate them. And it works until she sees herself in the young Emily. In the opening scene, we see Emily looking out of her window onto the snowy roads of Philadelphia. She hears a knock all of a sudden, so she walks over to the door with freshly made pancakes in her hand. Opening the door, she sees her boyfriend with a bag full of Christmas decorations. They joke around for a while before she lets him in. At the table, he can't help but compliment her cooking, as he enjoys the buttermilk pancakes. However, he asks for some bacon, but giggling, she reveals he ate it all the previous day. Her roommate rushes out of her bedroom, already late for work, but makes sure to grab a delicious pancake before running out. Sighing, Leo pats his full stomach before saying that he could spend his whole day eating pancakes and laying around. However, Emily remembers that one of her jackets needs to be tried on, so she begs him to be the model. Claiming that it's unisex, she gets him to try it on, but as he puts it on, he realizes that it's a woman's jacket. A feeling of doubt washes over her, but he assures her that she'll be a famous designer one day. After the delicious breakfast, they head to the tailor shop, where Emily's father's working on a dress. However, the girl ends up being too demanding, so he hands her over to Tony. Emily and Leo walk in, and her father is excited to see them, but doesn't forget to poke fun at Leo for not having a job. Leo assures him he'll eventually find a job when his phone starts ringing. He decides to Emily it outside, and we hear him arguing with the person on the other line to remind them that he already has plans for Christmas. Regardless, he promises to visit them in the end, which is why he decides to take Emily to dinner in the evening. The girls run around the room trying to find a good outfit while rethinking the purpose of the dinner. While Tony thinks that he might propose, Emily is scared that he might break up with her. The time comes shortly, and we see them together at the restaurant. Both of them are nervous and look like they're on edge as Leo tries to explain himself. Given that he's waited for a year, she assumes he's already married, but he blurts out that he's a prince. Confused, she asks him to come again, so he pulls out his phone to show her a picture of him in a prince suit. She feels betrayed, so she asks who he is. He's not the lead that eats pancakes with her while watching TV. He's someone with a completely different lifestyle. However, he argues, claiming that he's still the same and that the title doesn't change anything. Finally, he reveals that he had to keep his identity a secret to live a normal life. Although still on the edge, Emily agrees to spend Christmas in the kingdom of Cordelia, alongside Prince Leo. So, we're taken to Cordelia, where Leo's mother, the queen, has found out about Emily. As she's reading the newspaper, her butler and maids walk in to serve her breakfast. One of the new maids accidentally calls her ma'am, and the tea gets poured from the wrong side, upsetting her even more. Regardless, she's mostly upset about her son dating an American girl of no royal descent. Victor, her butler, assures her that American girls can be nice, but she doesn't want to hear it. The following morning, we see Emily and Leo ready to hit the road. Before Emily gets into the car, she says goodbye to her father and Tina, and expresses her concerns about the queen. She worries whether she'll like her, but her father assures her that everyone likes her. Because his future son-in-law is a prince, Emily's father doesn't miss the chance to get an autograph just to hang it up in his tailor shop. Finally, the young couple hits the road, and after some time they arrive in Cordelia. Emily is in awe by how big the palace is. As they get out of the car, she's impressed by the staff. Leo greets the butler, Victor, but Emily shakes his hand, something that's unusual for a princess. They walk into the palace and get greeted by Queen Isadora coming down the stairs. She is delighted to see her son, but the same can't be said about Emily. Isadora refers to her as Leo's acquaintance, but he lets her know that she's his girlfriend. The queen is silent for a few seconds before she fake smiles. They decide to move to the upper floor, and as they walk into a lounge room, Emily hands Isadora a gift from Philadelphia, a snowball of the Liberty Bell with Benjamin Franklin inside. Instead of thanking her, Isadora goes on a rant about how he didn't discover electricity, but it was discovered by an English man named William Gilbert. Emily gives her an awkward smile, not knowing how to respond, but Leo calls her out for finding fault in everything. Isadora's dog runs to them all of a sudden, and as Emily picks him up, Leo tells her that his mother is attached to her pets a lot. With the same attitude, the queen tells him that she's attached to them because they're loyal, trying to say that he isn't. Having had enough, Isadora asks Emily to let them chat in private and orders Victor to show her way to the gold suite. Hearing the name, Emily gets excited, but Leo reveals that it's the farthest suite from his room. Regardless, Emily agrees to go there, and as they leave, Isadora starts interrogating Leo. She doesn't want her son to marry a commoner, which is why she had planned for him to marry a duchess close to the family. He honestly tells her it was her plan, but she still doesn't want to accept that a commoner will be queen one day. On the way to her room, Emily asks Victor some questions about the queen. He as well is not sure whether she likes her, but reminds her that miracles do happen. In the evening, they all gather for dinner where only traditional food had been ordered to be prepared. Leo rolls his eyes at his mother's attempt to push Emily away. But what happens next shocks everyone. Not wanting to be a bummer, Emily picks up the fork and knife to try the octopus, despite it looking weird. However, as she takes a bite, she can't help but compliment the dish, claiming that it's exquisite. Isadora knows that her plan has fallen, so she attempts to shame her father for being a tailor. Leo tries to back her up by mentioning that she makes clothes, and even appoints the dress that she's wearing, but Isadora doesn't seem impressed. Emily also reveals that she's working on new clothing, but when she mentions hoodies, she makes the situation even worse. She feels horrible after dinner, so Leo does everything to cheer her up. He takes her to his favorite room in the castle, the weapons room. Picking up 2 swords, he hands her one and proceeds to teach her how to match. With a couple of swift motions and a stab, he shows her how to approach the enemy, but once she tries, the sword flies out of her hand and into the portrait behind her. Leaving it in, he grabs her hand, and they run out of that room straight into the ballroom. He reveals that the ballroom is sacred to the queen, and the Christmas balls are the most important. He claims she's still mad at him for not showing up the previous year, which is why Christmas should be perfect this time. Jokingly, Emily says that she should stay in her room if he wants it to be perfect, but he pulls her closer so they can dance. They start dancing to the song playing on his phone, unaware they're being watched. Their love shines bright as Victor and the maid look over them, both saddened because they know the queen won't approve of their love. Late into the night, as the rain pours outside the castle, Emily wakes up feeling hungry. She struggles to find her way to the kitchen, but does stumble across the weapons room. Seeing the armor, she pulls out a sword and jokingly swings it around until she sees the queen looking at her. Startled, she apologizes and admits that she was only looking for the kitchen. Victor rushes out of nowhere, so Isadora asks him to show her the way. In the morning, Emily is woken up by her phone ringing. Answering, she realizes that it's Tony. Tony is shocked to hear that she's in the gold suite, and she gets excited. However, their conversation is cut short as they begin talking about the queen. The maid comes in with the tea, and after she leaves it on the table, she begins tidying up the room. Emily gets up from her bed, telling her she'll take care of it. The maid reminds her that it's her job, but takes the liberty to say that Emily is different from the others. Confused, she asks what that means, and the maid tells her she's nice. Emily smiles as she asks for the girl's name, who is revealed to be named Olivia. At the dining table, we see the queen and Leo discussing Emily. Leo tries to explain that he's in love with her, but the queen thinks that the Duchess Natasha is perfect for him. He agrees that she might be a good fit, but reminds her that there are no feelings between them. The doors open and Emily enters in casual attire. Seeing that the queen and the prince have dressed up, she asks to change, but Leo assures her that she's beautiful. The young couple starts making plans for the afternoon, but Isadora chimes in to remind Leo of the formal dinner. Luckily, he doesn't listen to her and decides to take out his girlfriend and show her around his town. Before they leave, they decide to test out whether the front guards are robots. Given that they're not allowed to move, they do everything to at least get a laugh from them. After many funny faces, gestures, kisses, and tricks, Emily and Leo give up, as not one of the guards moves. Leo hops into the driver's seat to make their outing more romantic, but as they arrive at the city square, he puts on a cap and glasses so he would be unrecognizable. As they head to the city square, Emily notices 2 men in suits following them, so Leo explains that they're just his bodyguards following him everywhere. They come across a scrawny-looking tree that makes Emily giggle because she and her dad had a tradition of buying a bad-looking tree and decorating it to look good. A small girl appears and asks whether they're interested in buying the tree. The girl introduces herself as Patty and reveals that she's from an orphanage, but is positive that she'll find her permanent family. Relating to her, Emily lets her know that she grew up without a mother, assuring him that she'll be just fine before they move to another booth. Leo asks to buy all the trees so they can be donated back to town. Patty gets excited and makes a polite gesture before disappearing in the back to get the sum. Impressed by his generosity, Emily compliments Leo by calling him the good prince. He takes off his hat and glasses since they're useless, and flirts back with his loving girlfriend. As they're about to kiss, a big crowd forms around them, forcing Emily out of the circle. Even though he's getting recognized, Emily and Leo don't stray away from visiting the most popular places in Cordelia. When they return to the palace, they're greeted by Isadora with an annoyed expression on her face as she reminds them about the dinner party. She even takes the ugly tree and orders Victor to take it somewhere special before letting the couple be. As they walk up the stairs, Emily can't help but wonder whether his mother is warming up to her and whether she can make the queen like her. Annoyed by his mother's behavior, Leo begs Emily to change the subject to something better, but she can't help but worry. As they reach the top of the stairs, an unfamiliar woman appears in the hallway. She runs to Leo and gives him a tight hug, which is when we find out that she's Natasha, the girl Isadora wants Leo to marry. Shocked to see her, Leo asks what she's doing at the palace, and she reveals that the queen had invited her. Looking over to Emily, he introduces them, but as Emily pulls out her hand to shake Natasha's, Natasha doesn't even shake hers properly. She goes on about how she had stolen Leo from her, going back to the days they spent together. So Leo can't help but rephrase everything she says. Feeling awkward, Emily decides to let them have the conversation as she heads to her room. But luckily Leo ends the conversation and follows her to the room. In the evening, we see Emily struggling to pick a proper dress for the royal dinner party. Luckily, Olivia helps her out, and they choose a dress made by Emily. Leo waits for her to get ready, so they enter the dining hall together. However, as they enter, they get seated at different ends of the table, and while Emily takes her seat, Leo whispers in his mother's ear that he's not happy. They get to dining, and as Emily looks at her plate, she sees 3 forks and knives that confuse her even more. Fortunately, Olivia whispers in her ear which one to take as she pours her a drink, seeing that her trick hadn't worked. Isadora asks the other guest named Galina about her book. Galina and her husband mention that they're working on a children's book, so Emily asks whether their children were the inspiration, unaware of their situation. The table goes silent and many faces drop before Galina reveals they can't have children. Feeling awful, Emily apologizes to them, but she doesn't see the end of it. Natasha asks about her tailoring job, so Emily reveals that it's where he had met Leo, sharing their lovely story. Wanting to compliment his girlfriend in front of everyone, Leo mentions that she makes her clothes as well, nodding her head. She also reveals that he tries on her clothing and that he looks great in them. Briefly, Leo changes the topic to her father, and Emily tells everyone that it's a miracle he's getting along with him since he hadn't liked any of the boys she's brought home. The queen interrupts her to ask how many men she's been with, shaming her for having multiple ex-boyfriends. Emily feels everyone's judgment, so she decides to stay in her room the following day. However, as she's catching up with Tony on the phone, she hears a knock on her door. Hanging up, she expects to see Olivia, but is surprised to see Leo holding a tray. Quickly, she covers her masked face, asking him not to look at her. But he finds her beautiful either way. Kneeling to her, he assures her that she's the most beautiful girl and the only one he wants to be with. It lifts her spirits, so she moves from her chair to the tray where she sees pancakes and coffee. Excited, she sits down and they dive in. On the side of the castle, we see the queen going over her duties for the week with the doctor when she sees the snowball that Emily had brought her. She knows that Victor had put it there intentionally and assumes that he likes her. However, she knows that they need someone with royal blood to enter the family. At that moment, Natasha walks in, wearing a riding uniform which reminds the queen of her young self. Stepping closer, Isadora tells Natasha that she's not close to getting Leo, but promises to help her get to it, which is why we see them waiting at the front entrance, waiting for Leo so they can ride horses together. Luckily, Leo knows what his mother's trying to do, so he keeps his distance from Natasha. After kissing him goodbye, Emily walks back into the palace when she hears laughter coming from one of the rooms. Following the sound, she ends up in the kitchen where the staff are seated at a table. She greets them before joining them at the table. She notices that they've kept the tree, so she offers to help them decorate it. However, as they finish the decorations, Galina walks into the kitchen and asks for Emily. They step out and Emily apologizes once more for the previous night, but Galina assures her that it's fine. What surprises Emily is that Galina reveals not to be a royal before marrying into the family, which makes her feel at ease. Knowing that she's being mistreated, Galina invites Emily to go shopping. In town, they come across Patty's booth, and they're happy to find out that since Leo had bought all the trees, only a few decorations are left to sell. Looking at the red cloth over the table, Emily comes up with an idea and offers to help. In the meantime, the queen and the prince are on their way to do their royal duties. To get to where they need to go, they have to drive past the town square, which happens to be past Patty's booth. As the mother and son are arguing about him making life decisions and changing, they see Emily sitting at the booth, and she catches their attention. The queen is visibly touched by Emily's kind gesture, even more so when Patty gives her a green scarf. Back at the palace, as Leo finishes his duties, he spends his free time with Emily. They discuss how they want to go back to their regular lives, as they miss living a normal life. He promises everything will be normal after the ball when they come across the royal church. Jokingly, Leo claims he can get baptized and married without leaving his house, so Emily asks whether he's ever thought about getting married. He admits that he has, but even though she doesn't want to, she reveals to have thought about getting married since 8 years of age. It makes him smile as he imagines them getting married, so he lets her know that no matter what, he will always be Leo from Philly. She smiles in response, and as he leans in for a kiss, Natasha appears out of nowhere, claiming that his mother is looking for him. Seeing that they're in front of the church, she starts going on about how she and Leo got married when they were kids with the ring he made. Emily listens as another woman tells her that she's practically married to the man she loves, but luckily she knows that she's just doing that to upset her. They return to the palace only to see Isadora waiting for them. She asks Emily whether she has a dress before letting her know that her old dress from when she got engaged will be in her room for tonight's ball. Again, Leo gets sent to do more work, leaving Emily alone for the whole day. On her way to the room, she comes across Victor and comes up with a great idea. Asking for a favor, she begs Victor to teach her how to act properly, and despite not having a lot of time, he agrees. Firstly, he teaches her how to greet different guests and how to give courtesy. She's a quick learner, but struggles a bit when the dancing comes. Then, he teaches her how to remove her gloves and eat the canapes when served. Finally, Olivia brings in the dress, and once Emily sees how hideous it is, she rushes them to the room to fix the dress before the ball comes. As they're doing the royal fiasco at the palace, the queen and the prince finish their last duties before the ball, giving Emily enough time to get ready. In the evening, before the ball begins, Leo pulls Victor aside to confide in him. He asks whether he's seen him happier, and Victor admits that he hasn't. Reaching for his inner pocket, Leo reveals that he's going to propose to Emily after the ball, and Victor couldn't be happier for him. However, Leo wishes his mother was as happy as Victor is. As the ball begins, we see royals from all over the country attending, among them Natasha. Inching closer to Isadora, she asks where Emily is, and Isadora lets her know that she's probably having trouble with the dress. Both of them laugh devilishly, but their faces soon drop as they see Emily walking down the stairs in a beautiful sparkly gown, like a true princess. She catches everyone's attention, and everyone becomes in awe of her, especially Leo. Walking to the stairs, he takes her hand and compliments her beauty. They walk into the ballroom, and Victor watches carefully as she greets different royals. He is surprised to see that she has remembered how to greet everybody, but he isn't the only one. The queen and Natasha stand observing as well, impressed by the sudden knowledge. Emily gets served canapes, and she even remembers to take her gloves off before eating, making Victor happier than ever. Poppy runs to Emily all of a sudden, surprising her positively. She appears to be attending with Galina and her husband. But once Galina reveals that they're planning on adopting her, the young couple couldn't be happier. Soon enough, they come across Isadora, who compliments her dress and quickly steals Leo, so they hold the speech. Getting on the stage, the queen thanks Leo for attending the annual Christmas party after being absent the previous year, and with that, she pokes fun at his academic years in America. The crowd cheers for the prince, and a loud laughter echoes the ballroom. Finally, the royals thank their friends and families for attending the annual party and wish them all a great time. The speech is followed by a waltz from all the royal couple, so naturally, Leo asks Emily to dance. However, before he has a chance to take her hand, Natasha tries to steal him from her. Luckily, he sees the Grand Duke nearby, so he gets him to dance with her. Focusing on Emily again, he asks her not to worry about not knowing the dance and suggests she follows his moves. The training with Victor finally pays off as Emily dances the waltz perfectly. Even the prince is surprised, so he asks how she knows the dance, and all she says is Victor. Once again, she catches everyone's attention with her dancing skill, and even the queen becomes impressed. Finishing the dance, Leo takes a breath before asking Emily to go to the balcony with him, as there's something he needs to tell her, ready to finally propose. Unfortunately, Natasha snatches him for the second dance, so Emily suggests the Duke and her sit it out. She stands on the side as she watches the man she loves dancing with a woman who is perfect for him. Not only do they look good together, the Duke comments about them being perfect for each other, which upsets Emily even more. Feeling like she doesn't belong there, she leaves the ballroom and heads to the kitchen. Comfortable around the staff, she asks for a specific sandwich since she's starving. However, she is surprised to find out that they don't know about the sandwich, so she decides to show them how it's made. The second dance is finally over, so Leo starts asking where Emily is. Once again, his mother keeps him away from her as she sends him to greet some royals. Even Natasha comes to her senses as she questions whether it is right to try to take Leo from Emily since she's seen how he looks at her. Regardless, Isadora gives her courage to continue playing the game, positive that she will end up with her son. Deciding to take some action, she asks Victor for Emily, and he has no choice but to take her to the kitchen. As they get to the kitchen, they see Emily with the maids making an American sandwich. The queen makes her presence known, so everyone shows respect to her. Emily explains that she was trying to show them some American cuisine, but Isadora doesn't care as she fires Olivia and the young boy immediately. As for Emily, she finally calls her all the names she'd been wanting, claiming that she's always just a commoner. She leaves, so Emily tries to apologize to the servants, but they keep their distance away. Saddened, she returns to the ballroom, only to see Leo enjoying a conversation with Natasha by his side. She quickly realizes that the queen has been right, so she heads to her suite to pack up and leave. Leo manages to find her after some time, but as he sees her packing, she realizes that something's wrong. She explains to him that he may not want to be with Natasha, but it's who he belongs with. He manages to calm her down by telling her that he's in love with her and only wants to be with her. However, as he gets down on one knee to propose to her, things take a bad turn. With hope in his eyes, he asks her to accept the ring that has been for centuries in his family, reminding her again that he's not the Leo she met. He asks her to marry him, but she shakes her head in rejection. They're from different worlds, and she explains that she doesn't want to change who is because she's proud of her people. Tears start filling his eyes as he promises to renounce his title, claiming that he only belongs with her. The queen starts feeling bad as she eavesdrops on their conversation shamelessly on the other side of the door. What touches her, however, is when Emily tells him that she can't let him do all of that for her, nor will she ever want to. The following morning, we see Emily packed up and ready to go back to Philadelphia. Before getting in the car, she shakes Victor's hand, who tells her it had been a delight to serve her. After apologizing to the former staff and hugging Olivia, she says the painful goodbye to Leo and gets into the car with a broken heart. The queen tries to talk with Leo, but he congratulates her on making Emily leave. Not having anyone to talk to, Isadora talks with Victor, who has the same attitude towards her. The queen finally understands that she had made a mistake, as he appreciates how Emily had managed to stay true to herself despite being mistreated. Outside the castle, we see Leo sitting by himself heartbroken when Natasha decides to join him. Fortunately, she has come to her senses as she claims that she respects Emily for being by his side after everything she did to her. Victor interrupts their conversation by telling Leo his mother is looking for him. Leo goes to her room, expecting her to give him the usual speech, but he's surprised to find out his mother had been in love with a commoner before marrying his father. She knows that what they have is special and admits that she wouldn't want him to be miserable in his marriage. The door opens as Olivia and the young boy walk in with a tea and serve the queen. Confused, she reminds Victor that she had fired them, but he tells her that he's rehired them. Seeing that everything is back to how it was, the queen asks Victor to announce to the public that her son is in love with a clothes designer and that she's given them her blessing. Leo jumps from his seat straight into her arms and tells her that he loves her. Love is in the air, as the queen finally lets her emotions lead her back to the commoner she still loves, Victor. The following day, we see Emily at the tailor shop when Tony notices Leo standing outside. Emily runs out and he proposes again, but she remembers the queen's disapproval. Surprisingly, Isadora comes out of the car and apologizes for everything. She wants Emily to be Leo's wife, so she brings out the dress she had planned for the Princess of Cordelia. Poor Leo has to propose again, but Emily screams yes before he even kneels. Next Christmas becomes even more magical for Emily. We see her walking down the aisle with her father before marrying a real-life prince. The newlyweds share their first kiss, marking their new beginning as Prince and Princess of Cordelia.